everyone, and welcome to another video of the TBR Jar. If you're new here or haven't watched one of these videos, I do one every month, and it's just to pull 6 prompts out to help along with my TBR to keep things interesting for the month and give me some direction of what to read. So I pull out 6 prompts and I do whatever the prompt says. There are 2 rules basically. If I already did the prompt the month beforehand, if it's a specific one, if it says something like ebook, then obviously I can do it again, but if it's too specific, I have the opportunity to re-pull, and if I don't finish all 6 books, then the punishment is that I have to pull an extra one in the following month. So I'm going to now swap over to the video that I filmed with my best friend and show you the prompts that I pulled, and at the very end of the video I will show you the books that I am going to read to correspond those prompts.
What did you pick one?
A retelling. Fantasy.
I haven't even read one.
Other? What is other?
Anything. Other than a card.
I don't like that one. Oh crap.
No, which one do you prefer?
We'll put them side by side. Sci-fi. Oh my god. Author pick. Okay, I can deal with that. Poll pick. Oh, I did that the month beforehand, but I suppose I could do it again.
6.
Okay. Right. Okay, so I'm showing you my TBR for the month of March. This is not just the TBR jar stuff, but let's go with that first. So the prompts were a retelling, fantasy, spooky read, sci-fi, author pick, and poll pick. So for a retelling, I'm going to go with Daughter of the Moon Goddess by 𝓬𝓮. I'm really excited to read this book. It is inspired by a legend about Chang'e. She is the moon goddess, I believe. That makes sense given the title of the book. And it's a really atmospheric sort of read about legends. And what else is it about? Yeah, it's basically about being hidden away and exiled by her mother, and about magic and just everything to do with Chinese mythology, and I'm really excited to read this. My friend on Instagram got an ARC copy of this and absolutely loved it and said I would too, and we have the same taste in books, so I'm really excited to get to this. I've heard nothing but great things, and it's been recommended by one of my favourite authors, so definitely going to enjoy this one. And the second one is fantasy, and I did From Blood and Ash in January for my fantasy prompt, and that's when I got this prompt last, so I'm going to do it again. I need to finish the rest of the Blood and Ash series that is up to date so far. I've got The Crown of Gilded Bones and Shadow in the Ember, which is the prequel series, to read first. Sorry, my dog is moving around the room. So I've got those to read, and then the next book comes out in March, so I'm not going to get to it in March, but I thought I'd get a crack on and read the next book in the series. So this continues on from where From Blood and Ash left off, and it's about Poppy finding herself after being removed from her last home, and she's still the maiden, I believe, but she's going to be just challenged quite a great deal during this this book, yeah, to see who she is without being the maiden. So obviously there's a lot that happened in From Blood and Ash. I'm trying to be spoiler free, but it's definitely been a great ride so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing on with the second book. So the next book up is Spooky Read, and I have been recommended by that same friend that I mentioned for the Daughter of the Moon Goddess to read the series 𝓕𝓷𝓭 by Renee, I'm going to butcher this last name, 𝓕𝓷. I hope that's close enough. It is a young adult historical fantasy fiction with a paranormal aspect to it. It's set in 1872 New Orleans, which is really exciting already because I quite like that as a setting. and it's a gothic mystery novel. And I'm not normally someone who reads spooky books all that often. And sorry, my dog's playing with a toy, which I don't know if you can hear that. Anyway, I don't normally read spooky books. I'm not a fan of thrillers, horrors, or anything like that, but I will branch out into gothic mysteries now and then, and I'm quite excited to read this one. It is how many are in the series? Let me just check real quick. It's a 4-part series, but only 3 books are available right now, and it was highly recommended, so I'm going to start that this month. So the next book I'm going to talk about is a sci-fi read, and that is an ebook, and it is going to be Obsession by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Again, this is another book that I've really wanted to get to. I have read the entire Lux series, and this is the spin-off about the Arum, which is really interesting to me because they were deemed the villains of the Lux series. However, during that series we met the characters for this book, and it's Hunter and I think her name is Serena, and it's all about their journey through what happened to both of them in the Daedalus sort of sector, I believe, and whatever else was going on there that coincides and links into the Lux world. I'm really excited to read this one. It's been on my list for a while now, and I just haven't got around to it. I'm just really hopeful to get finished with this whole series so then I can move on to Origin this year, because the 4th book in that series is coming out. It's the last book in the series, and I knew that book 3 ended on a cliffhanger, so I've been holding out, and I feel like I should wrap up Lux before I go into the sequel series of Origin. So next I'm going to talk about author pick, and that's something that we have in the jar that the opposite person gets to choose an author for that person to read. So my best friend had pulled this in her first round, and I chose Jennifer L. Armentrout for her, I believe, and because I'm trying to get her through all the books that we've been reading. And now she has chosen for me Mariana Zapata, which is one of the authors that I've been really excited to get to. And so the book that I have chosen to read is called From Lucas with Love. It's a sports romance, and it's based around an enemies to lovers sort of trope, and they are figure skaters. One is feeling like she's on the down, and the other is quite popular, I believe, and she gets the offer to join team with him, and I'm guessing that it's going to be quite a slow burn because Zapata is known for her slow burns. I'm really excited. This will be my first time reading one of her books, and I was going to read Culty first, but I decided that I would start with this one because, I don't know, I just really like figure skating, and since we're around the Olympics right now, I thought that would be a good one to read, even though the Olympics will be over by the time I start reading it. The next prompt is poll pick, and once again I'm choosing an author, so I have decided to do Colleen Hoover. It Ends With Us has been on my TBR. I keep putting it on my monthly TBR several times over now. I didn't get to it this month, so I thought that since I had poll pick again, I would choose to put 2 books up against the other. Either one I'm happy to read, so I haven't read either of these obviously, and I'm really excited to get into them. I've only read 4 books by Colleen Hoover now, and I really want to get through the rest that we've got on the shelf. So I'm not really going to go into what these books are about because I'm not too sure which one I'll be reading, and they're quite popular and a lot of people have talked about them, so I will definitely talk about which one ever wins and I read at the end of March. And that was the end of the TBR Jar prompts. However, you can see there's a few more books on the shelf, and I do 10 books a month that I'm going to read. And the first one on the list that's not a prompt is actually XOXO by Axie O, and that is a young adult romance. So the main character, Jenny, travels to Seoul to look after her grandmother, and she meets up with the main character, or the love interest, Jae-woo, again. She'd already met him back home, and I'm really excited for this one. It will be my first read by XEO, even though I will own the other book that's coming out before it. I'm going to have to read this on my ebook because I can't get a physical copy of it, unfortunately. This is going to be part of a buddy read that I'm doing next month. I'm doing 2 buddy reads, and this is the one that I'll be doing later in March. The second buddy read I'll be doing is Good Girl Complex, and that's by Al Kennedy, and it is another romance, but it's more set in university, I believe. Yes. So basically Mackenzie, who is the main character, is a people pleaser. She's always done right things by everyone, and now she's going off to college and she's going to be living in this little sort of community. It's called Avalon Bay, and there she meets her love interest, which is Cooper Hartley, and he's sort of a bad boy. So I'm guessing it's going to be a bad boy, good girl kind of trope. Sounds really, really exciting. I'm super excited to start this. This will be the first read of March, actually, because it is the day that I start doing the first buddy read. And then I have 3 more books that I want to share really quickly. The first is These Violent Delights by 𝓦𝓱𝓮𝓻. I have both this one and Our Violent Ends on my shelf. I've been holding off for reading them, and I'm not too sure why. I really am excited to read this one. It's a historical fiction again, and it's sort of a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, but it's set in Shanghai, and it's set in 1926, and it's obviously between a blood feud of 2 gangs, and you know, basically the same sort of synopsis of Romeo and Juliet, but set in 1926 and with different characters. So I'm really excited to read this one because I actually wasn't going to, which is funny, but I keep seeing it at the shops and thinking that the book was so pretty, but it didn't really speak out to me. But I've seen so much fan art of it that I'm now obsessed and I have to read it. So that's why I'm really excited to read this one this month. And then I have both these copies of Only a Monster. So I was really fortunate to win a ARC copy of this book, and unfortunately it arrived too late for me to read it before it was released, so I now have a published copy and the unproofed edition, and I am going to be reading probably the published copy, but it's really cool to have both. So this is, I think, another YA, it's a YA paranormal fantasy, and it's about going away for summer to stay with her family in London. Joan is determined to enjoy herself, it says on the synopsis, but she soon learns that her family's got another secret, and there's a whole lot more about power and being monsters, and she's got to battle and everything like that. So it sounds really, really good, completely up my alley. So I'm super excited to read this. As you can see on the ARC copy, it's got all these like little tropes and things that are going on. So definitely something that I would love to read, and I cannot wait to get to it. I just love this. Captain America like hero antagonist, like A+, love that. So I'm definitely going to be reading that this month. It's been on my list for the last few months now, ever since I won the ARC copy. And finally, the last book that I'm going to talk to you about today is another Jennifer L. Armentrout book. I am going to be reading Forever With You, which is part of the Wait For You series. It's book 6, I believe, or is it book 5? Let me quickly check. Book 5. And it is set around characters. Let me see. I knew their names off the top of my head a minute ago. Steph and Nick. So I'm now up to this book, and I'm very excited to read this one, mostly just because I want to be done with the series. It's not her greatest work. It's very different from the fantasy novels that I've read because this is contemporary romance. However, there's always a dark theme that's going on in all of these books, and the novellas in this world seem to be way better. Like the last one I read was so good, and then the last 2 books before that were kind of okay. I wouldn't say I have a problem with the series. I am enjoying it, and I haven't like hated reading it. I just feel like it's not what I am usually expecting from this author, and so perhaps it's been a little bit harder for me to get into the series. However, I really do like the fact that it carries on. So from the start of the series, we have characters that are still in this world and are still being used in the books, and we're currently we're currently reading about Nick and Steph in this one. So Nick is from the bar, which is in books 3 and 4 and 4.5, and then Steph is from the beginning. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. Apparently this is one of the best romances in the whole series, and I really want to get this one done, because then I only have book 6 and then the series is done, and that is another series off my checklist of Jennifer's that I need to read. So that is my entire TBR for March. Obviously I will read more than this, but I wanted to share the thoughts that I had going into the month, both from the prompt side of things and just the extra books that I've added onto the TBR that I hope to get through. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books, which one's your favourite. Are you looking forward to reading any of these if you haven't read them? I'd really love to hear your thoughts, and I will be back with another video very soon. Thank you. Bye.